Hello and welcome to TVP World. I'm Ashim Kumar and you're watching Press Corner on this beautiful, bright Sunday morning. And in this programme, we look at current events from various vantage points, letting our audience reach their own conclusions. Today, I'm joined by Agnieszka Wolk-Łaniewska, Editor-in-Chief of NIE. Hello, Agnieszka. And Karolina Wójcicka, I beg your pardon, journalist at Dziennik Gazeta Prawna. Welcome back. It's great to have you both here. You're regular contributors, so you know how the thing works. Welcome. So we're going to start with Russia's hybrid war. Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia's aggression has taken many forms, as well as the brutal military assault. Moscow has been intensifying its ongoing hybrid attacks in recent weeks, but Western governments have limited means to defend themselves. Here's our report on the issue.
A new form of so-called underwater warfare is taking place in the Baltic Sea, and the West is pointing fingers at Russia. In November, 2 undersea fiber optic cables were severed, but no one has been held responsible.
I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to that particular country. There are things that they can't do right now in order to test us being NATO, in order to provoke us, and in order to figure out how we will meet those responses. And I think that every single one of these incidents that happen, that occur, they're looking at how a specific country responds and how the alliance responds.
Russia has long been accused by the West of carrying out hybrid warfare, yet not all instances can be directly traced back to Moscow. But there's no surprise that the Baltic is a perfect target, as it's surrounded by 8 NATO countries.
There's a very clear sign that something is going on here. Nobody believes that these cables were accidentally cut or that anchors accidentally caused the damage.
A Chinese carrier ship was singled out as potentially responsible for the damage. Danish authorities detained the ship, but have yet to attribute the action to Moscow or Beijing.
Okay, Agnieszka, I'll start with you, if I may. Now, the cutting of undersea cables is the latest in a long list of hybrid warfare techniques by Russia. Is the West prepared for this type of warfare?
I'm having trouble with this idea of hybrid war because everything that is going wrong and the collective West is attributed to Russia now. Really, it's like if we didn't have Russia, we have to invent it to explain everything which is wrong here. I'm not sure. I don't know. There was said in this report that there is no proof that Russia has anything with this. And I would like to see some proofs, because I'm thinking we are in this position when everybody is thinking Russia is doing everything which is wrong here. We will be talking about elections. And people are just not happy with the situation we are in the state of the things. So
blame Russia.
So blame Russia.
Blame Russia.
It's just the easiest way. So really,
it's Russia pulling the strings in the background.
At the beginning of this affair with Nord Stream 2, which was destroyed, also, there was voices blaming Russia for.
Well, everybody was being blamed. I mean, everybody, the West, US.
There was this idea that Russia destroyed the Nord Stream 2, which was completely ridiculous.
Doesn't make sense.
Completely. So I'm waiting for some proof
some evidence.
Yes.
Okay, but I'd suggest to you that there is evidence, especially. Okay, leave the cables aside for the moment. But there is evidence with regard to hacking, for example, and technological influence over various elements of countries' politics. So surely we've known about this for a while. I mean, they've been talking about election interference since 2016, Trump's first election. Is the West prepared for this?
I mean, first of all, let me address one thing.
Yeah.
Russia started the war in Ukraine. Russia meddled in US elections, tried to influence French elections and various other elections happening around the globe. So I think it's perfectly justifiable to assume that Russia might be behind at least part of those accidents, attacks, or however you want to call it. The very important thing is that it takes a lot of time for European officials to investigate all those particular incidents. Let me just say that in France, there was this railroad attack just before Paris Olympic Games, and French authorities still haven't blamed Russia for that because they are still investigating. So it's not that we just say everything is done by Russia. We take those things seriously, but obviously it's understandable that many people here in the West assume it's Russia or Russia's allies.
Because they have a track record.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
but that's, you're talking about after the event. What I'm asking about is, for example, with technology and the use of technology to hack, for example, surely that is not new. Has the West done enough to protect itself?
Definitely not.
Right.
That's the problem.
So what exactly? What's stopping the West?
I think the West is scared. A lot of countries in the West, except for Poland and countries that are neighboring Russia, are afraid of escalation. Are afraid of being drawn into a wider conflict of the war spilling outside of Ukrainian borders. And they don't want to be seen as countries that get involved in any hostile or something like that actions against Russia, because they don't want to go to war with Moscow.
Well, it's a bit late, isn't it?
No, actually, I
West
think you're right to be afraid. Actually, if it's really natural
this is defensive.
to do not, it is or it isn't. It's rational to do not want to go to war with Russia, between Russia and NATO. It's going to be a third world war, and we're not going to survive it. So it's absolutely rational to do not want to get into this situation. We're going to talk about the elections. In Georgia, for example, when the great idea of Georgian Dream, the ruling party, is to show the photos from Ukraine, and with the photos from Georgia, the photos from Ukraine bombarded church and so on, and the thriving Georgia. I said, say no to war. People don't want in 2024, in this moment of the time, don't want to go to war. And I'm not going to be condescending about it. I'm not going to say it's not right to be afraid of Russia. Of course we are afraid of Russia.
Well, the Russian people, I would suggest, most of them don't want war either, right?
52%. This is eerily symmetric. There was in these weeks 2 polls in Russia and Ukraine. 52% on both sides want to end this war.
Right.
People don't want to go to war.
So at least half of the population, in most countries, in some countries 100% or close to, don't want to go to war. So I don't think that's in dispute. But at the end of the day, does one allow an aggressor like Putin to have his own way, to exert influence, and always hold the threat of war in the background and allow him to get away with it? I mean, isn't this dangerous for the future?
You're talking about ethic or moral discussion. And
no,
I think
practical discussion.
No, it's practical discussion. Maybe I'm wrong, because I was really wrong about Ukraine. I was sure that Putin would not invade Ukraine, so I'm not so sure anymore. But
None of us are, really.
But actually, I think he has no interest in invading the rest of Europe. He sees he's very weak in Ukraine. It doesn't work as he hoped it would. So I think Now there is a time to negotiate and to wait for the better geopolitical climate to change things, because people are dying, and I'm a pacifist.
Understood.
I actually hate the situation where people are dying for nothing, because nothing changed for this almost 3 years. The front line is the same, and there is an estimation that 1 million people are dead or injured during this war, which is completely stupid.
Well,
nothing's going
certainly
on.
it's heartbreaking on both sides. Karolina, you wanted to say something?
Yes, if I may just add, I mean, Russia doesn't really have to send troops to Poland or Lithuania or any other country in the region to, threaten our security. What we are currently seeing happening in the Baltic Sea, or, with the flight that was...
The DHL flight.
Exactly, that had a parcel bomb. Russia is crossing all the red lines. And we can't just sit and watch, because then they're going to move and do other things. And, they are currently testing us, basically. How far they can go without us, and by us I mean Europe and NATO, reacting to it. So we have to show that we are, first of all, united, that Europe is in solidarity with Ukraine, and we have to react to those events.
We have no choice. We've got to do something.
Because then they're going to move further.
I would actually say we did it.
Sorry, I'll come back to you in a second, Agnieszka, if I may, just continuing from what Karolina just said. Now, the ship that is thought to have cut the cables in the Baltic, that was Chinese registered, but it had a Russian captain. Do you think there's something going on between China and Russia on the hybrid front, for example, in activities like this?
Well, first of all, we have to wait for the investigation to finish in Sweden. However, it's obvious that Russia and China are allies. China doesn't send weapons to Russia, so it's not supporting Russian war efforts in Ukraine as much as Iran does, for example.
Or North Korea.
Or North Korea, exactly. But China saved Russian economy. It's the lifeline for Russia. China sends various dual-use technology to Moscow. So it's supporting Russian war efforts. And, we can't exclude such a
possibility.
option. Yeah, exactly.
We can't exclude Chinese influence. Now everything's going to be about
China.
Yeah.
is the only power in the world that can somehow be competitive to USA. And we have to understand and respect China, because it's a powerful country. And we in collective West, we are thinking about China as like some backwater, country, which is not. So I think our Western central megalomania, I would say, is really very damaging for us and for the world. And listen, I'm not for China. I'm a socialist. I really hate the new capitalism, and China is building the biggest capitalist economy in the world. But we have to understand that China has this interest, has its goals, which is not to conquer the world.
What is it?
What Grzegorz Kłodko, the professor of economics, he used to be twice the vice premier minister and the minister of finance. He said China is fighting for its people. Well, the Communist Party of China, let's say, Communist Party of China, it's fighting to be legitimized in this big country, I would say, big society, by elevating the life, the quality of life of its people. So the Chinese expansion is economical. They're trying to get...
Well, of course, that's a laudable goal. But there are, there's lots of evidence of Chinese espionage in the West, for example. We think about
Do you think there is no Western espionage in China? Listen, sorry, I beg your pardon, but
Well, I'm sure there
everybody's doing it.
I'm sure there is, but what I'm saying is that let's not forget that China does not have clean hands when it comes to espionage.
Nobody has.
Well, that's a question for another discussion. Right now, we're talking about China and Russia's, if you like, joint efforts in undermining the West, especially when it comes to Ukraine, but also in other areas. So certainly with China, no one disputes that they have been, involved in espionage. Do you believe that there is something going on regarding Chinese hybrid support for Russia with a view to adjusting, if you like, the world order?
Definitely, that's China's goal to, fight American dominance on the global stage.
So it's not just about Chinese people?
Of course, it's not only about Chinese people. And, that's a bit problematic because China is in a big crisis right now. There's a huge crisis on the property market. There's not enough jobs for young people and so on and so forth. So China actually needs Europe, and we are China's important trade partner, especially now that Donald Trump won the American elections, and the trade war with China will most probably escalate. So they need us more than we need them, actually. So we can have some demands, and we can demand from China to act in a proper way when it comes to the war in Ukraine. But on the other hand, China also says pretty clearly that they want to change the world order. That's why they're trying to, expand BRICS, so it can be, it can fight with G7 on the economic front, and they are making some other moves as well to prove that this global South front can actually dominate the world.
Right.
As well.
Okay. Well, Agnieszka, Karolina mentioned Trump and the Trump effect. I mean, he hasn't taken power yet, but there seems to be all kinds of movement going on as a result. How do you think this is going to affect Russia's strategy, both in Ukraine and globally?
Actually, I think Russia said it already, that Russia is going to talk to Trump. Russia is thinking about, some kind of agreement or at least interaction with Trump. Actually, we are so self-centered. We have to accept that in 2016, the winning of Trump was somehow disputed. Now it's not. The American people decided they want Donald Trump to be their next president. I actually hate him. I loved Kamala Harris. I think she was great. But
if Trump brings...
That's the situation we are in now, and we have to work with this. If
Trump brings peace to Ukraine, would you like him?
No, I wouldn't like him in any way or form. But actually, I think it's very important to do something to stop people from dying. Really, it's just there is this two way. One way is to fight till the end and to die honorably and whatever, which I think is stupid.
Right.
And the other one is to stop people from dying, to make some way to stop this war, and then wait, because it's going. It's like Soviet Union. Right?
Sure.
But if
it's going to change. The situation is going to change. The geopolitical climate is going to change, and in 10 years or 15 years or whatever, it's going to be different situation, different interaction, and
different leadership.
We can to come back to this.
Right. Well, let's see what happens. But certainly Trump's election has shaken things up a little bit all over the place, including in Europe. It's time, unfortunately, to move on to our next topic. There's so much more to say about this. And the next topic, of course, is Romanian presidential election. Yeah. So Romania's top court has ordered a vote recount following the unexpected result of the first round of the presidential election. Now, all eyes are on Romania as votes are being recounted. And the country elects its parliament. Before we embark on our discussions, let's take a quick look at the gist of the story.
Having polled in single digits before Sunday's vote, independent far-right politician Călin Georgescu surged to a victory in Romania's presidential election, shocking the nation. Georgescu surged to the top with 22.9% of the vote, followed by Elena Lasconi with 19.18% and Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu with 19.15%. George Simeon came in fourth. Georgescu's win did not receive a warm welcome in the capital.
We are defending our country from the far right.
I have close people and family who would not want a president like Călin Georgescu. The decision of Romania's constitutional court seems like a political game that has no place here.
One conservative presidential candidate, Cristian Teras, who got 1% of the votes, challenged the ballot's result. Now, nearly 4 million votes, including those from abroad, are being hauled to voting stations across the country. The recount could take 3 days or longer.
The moment after we discovered who is the first one, and the large public discovered that this is a pro-Kremlin politician, the feeling, I mean, the emotions changed dramatically. And now everybody is waiting to vote against such a candidacy.
In a surprise turn of events, the Prime Minister announced he was withdrawing from the race, regardless of the result.
I just want the Romanians to know the truth, which is more important than my candidacy. And then Romanians will know how to punish those who stole faster than the institutions will.
Should the first round of presidential elections be annulled, they could be repeated as early as December 15th. A final decision is expected Monday.
Caroline, I'll start with you. So, all kinds of excitement going on around the presidential elections in Romania and, of course, the parliamentary elections, which are happening tomorrow as well. So, what do you make of all of this?
Oh, it's very hard to make something out of it at this point. We need to wait for the results of the parliamentary elections. If the far right wins, and currently one of the far right parties, AUR, is according to polls should secure the most votes, something about 22%. Then there are two other far right parties. If they receive more than 5% of the vote, they could create a minority government. And that's pretty scary for European Union because
Why?
It's going to be another country in the region besides Hungary and Slovakia that are sovereignist, isolationist, anti-Ukraine, pro-Russia, because Călin Georgescu, he openly says that Romania should, learn something from Russian wisdom. He says openly that Vladimir Putin loves his country. He's against supporting Ukraine, and Romania was a big part of the collective European support for Ukraine. They provided Ukraine with Patriot batteries. They helped Ukrainian farmers with transit of the grain to other international markets. And generally the rise of the far right is I guess, not what Brussels wants at the moment.
Right. So, your thoughts, Agnieszka?
I'm going to say some blasphemy things.
Please.
First, I think everybody has something to learn from Russian wisdom, because this is a big country and we have to look at it and understand it. Second, I think Vladimir Putin really loves his country. I think he's doing bad things for his country. But I wouldn't question his patriotism. I think he made a great mistake by invading Russia. But what's happening in Romania and in Georgia and many other countries now, people are questioning the establishment. This is the thing. the establishment is so much cut off of this
from the people.
From the people. And Romania is the second country in Europe, the first is Poland, who led the CIA to torture people on its soil during this so-called war on terror. And I think we are going to see much more of this anti-establishment movement in Europe, and also in, let's say, it's absurd, I know, because he's a billionaire, but Donald Trump is also an anti-establishment vote from American people. People are fed up with this elite not looking for the good of the small person.
Right.
So I'm thinking the political parties in Europe has to think it over, has to change the way we are doing things. I actually hate this guy from Romania. He's a fascist.
Georgescu.
He's a fascist. He's a very deeply religious person. It's not like I'm fighting for him.
Right.
But we really have, I mean the left. As a left, we have to think over our relationship with working class, let's say.
Right, okay. So basically, in your opinion, Georgescu, I mean, he's actually far right, wouldn't he?
He's not a leftist, no.
He's not a
leftist,
leftist, but you see him having a closer connection with the people as a result of his
Actually,
policies.
I think that's the thing what happened with Trump.
Right.
We have to understand this.
Yeah.
He
So he's a
talked to
populist.
people. He's a populist, but we tend to think of populism as a bad thing. No,
Yeah.
a populism is a way to connect with the populace,
Right.
with the people. We have to do it.
Yeah.
We are in a very bad position. This elitarian Western political.
Okay, so it's the elites basically that are monopolizing the whole political environment. Why are we having a recount here?
Well, I guess the recount would make things worse only because the people who...
For whom?
For liberals, for Democrats, because, people who voted for Georgescu, those are the people who are not especially far right. Those are the people who are, as you said, want to reject the mainstream parties, which, were corrupted, engaged in nepotism. The situation in Romania was pretty bad. I mean, the inflation is one of the highest in Europe, and they haven't done anything to help their citizens in this situation. So, people thought that we need someone new, someone who might help us. And now with the traditional parties trying to force the recount, maybe, I don't know, retake the elections, those people who voted for Georgescu, they will feel betrayed they will feel like as if there are some enemies. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's gonna lead to more polarization, possibly social unrest, and that's something that we don't need right now.
No, well, certainly, I think I would suggest that very few countries actually want that to happen generally. But it's not just about elitism and corruption and nepotism. It's also about the fact that Georgescu has plainly stated that he's against the European Union or closer membership or involvement in the European Union, NATO, and so on. I mean, is that really what the Romanians want?
I feel that the Romanian people feel like they are second-class citizens in the European Union, that they are partly colonized by large firms and so on and so forth. And Georgescu talking about putting Romania first, or trying to rebuild the agriculture sector and so on. He's actually making a point that Romanians believe in, because they don't feel as seen on the international scene. They are as well tired of the war in Ukraine. So Georgescu stating things like Ukrainian refugees have more rights than our people. It's obviously a lie, but it finds...
It resonates with some people.
Exactly.
Understood. So I mean, let's be realistic here. Romania has one of those GDPs in the European Union. Its average income is lower than many countries in the European Union. So does it surprise us that they have less influence in the EU?
No, it doesn't. But actually, I think it's not only purely economic question. It's also some kind of dignity question. We are. Let's be true here. Even in Poland, even during communist time, the Romania was some kind of village stupid. We didn't really respect them. We didn't really expect them to do anything important, and the elite in Romania was trying to get this place at the table in the European Union. I would say against the Romanian people's expectations. So it is a big trouble in collective West. I would say, using Russian word. The elites are completely cut off, and we are surprised because he wasn't in the polls as high as he is now.
It was a big surprise for everyone.
But listen, Donald Trump wasn't supposed to win this election.
Well, it depended which polls you listen to.
popular vote. So people are really, excuse the word, pissed off with the elites. Yeah. And something got to give. I say as a pundits, a political commentator, whatever, we have to start to listen to the people. I know it sounds populist. I know it sounds really low intellectually, but I think we have to think about what people want, really. Yeah. Let me say just one thing. Piotr Ikonowicz, which is a kind of leftist icon. He's writing in my weekly, and he said something. He wrote something very important, that the right is winning the election when it's taking the leftist policy. The leftist policy who are social, who are helping people. And it's happening now everywhere. It was in Poland with Law and Justice. They took leftist ideas of helping people raise their children by 500 or now 800 zlotys and so on. And they did win the election. We have to rethink this.
So why isn't the left still following its policies?
I have no idea, really.
That's a question.
I'm really sorry about it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have to move on. Unfortunately, time's short. We move to Georgia now, and that's also a lot in the news. We have police deploying water cannons and pepper spray against thousands of pro-European protesters in Tbilisi. The demonstrations broke out on Friday after Georgia's ruling party said it was putting a pause on EU accession talks until 2028. This is just the latest in a string of social unrest following a frowned-upon election. Frowned upon is an interesting choice. Election result in October, Now, let's take a look at our report.
Another night, thousands gathered outside the parliament building in Tbilisi. With Georgian and EU flags in hand, they criticized the ruling Georgian Dream Party for halting EU accession talks until 2028. For some, it's their only choice.
People are openly talking and calling for revolution because there is no other scenario. Either wins and prevails the Georgian dream, and we will see another pseudo-independent state, or Georgia will be not fully free unfortunately, from Russian influence.
The protests, which first erupted on Thursday, show no signs of slowing down.
Today they decided to end our history, everything what we have achieved for past 30 years, and not only that, for past maybe 100 years.
Of course we're upset. We are so angry. It's literally beyond embarrassing. What this government is doing to us, it's literally like,
this is really, I cannot believe. The words cannot describe what is happening today.
Police quelled the protests using water cannons and deployed pepper spray and tear gas. But it didn't stop there. CCTV captured police officers chasing and beating the activists. One reported having her arm broken, and others sustained injuries. Georgia's pro-Western president Salome Zurabichvili also joined the protests.
It's evident in every way. No one is willing to accept a Russified Georgia, a Georgia deprived of its constitution, or a Georgia under an illegitimate government and parliament.
All this comes amid calls to hold new parliamentary elections. In October, the governing Georgian Dream Party claimed victory with well over half the vote. The election was seen as Georgia's chance to inch closer to European integration, but the final result was the exact opposite.
Without Europe, all we have is Russia and death and poverty and destruction. That is the side that this illegitimate government has taken. So obviously people weren't going to let that happen, and we're not going to let that happen.
EU lawmakers have blamed the ongoing unrest on the ruling party, while at the same time decrying the election as the latest stage in the state's worsening democratic crisis.
Agnieszka. Right. So.
I'm going to say something blasphemous, as usual. The trouble, I was talking to a member of Bundestag, German parliament, who was observer of this election, parliamentary election, from the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. And he said, no, he didn't see any big fraud. He just said they had very cynical but very smart campaign. They show the photos from, as I said, from Ukraine and from Georgia, and they said, do you want war or do you want peace? People in Georgia or anywhere don't want war, but I'm thinking we are in this position that because the pro-European, pro-Western forces lose the election, so we don't expect this election. People of Georgia, of Romania, of Moldova, whatever, has the right to choose. And I'm really fed up with this narrative that we are going to change this. We are going to help them change this election. Of course, they are protesting because it's very polarized society. Like almost everywhere in the world, the society are polarized. But there was an election, and the people the forces who are not pro-Western won this election. That's all.
Well, yes, but I think it's not that polarized in Georgia. I mean, 80% in some polls of Georgians support EU membership, and now these guys come along and say, well, we're going to slow walk this, and all talks are suspended. So this doesn't surprise us, does it?
I have to disagree with what Agnieszka said. I mean, Georgian Dream definitely enjoys high support still, besides many protests that happened throughout the year. However, there were many, if not thousands of cases of Georgian Dream buying votes, trying to influence voters, especially in the public sector. And, you know, if people want to keep the job, they actually listen to the ruling party. And many other cases collected by both NGOs, the opposition parties, and we have seen the European Parliament stating last week that the election should be rerun because there is evidence that Georgian Dream influenced the results. They might not have rigged the results fully, but they definitely influenced how the voters voted.
Of course, it's called a campaign.
Well,
sorry.
I mean,
there are legal
line,
and
right?
illegal methods, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, well, clearly, if the EU is asking questions, there must be some there. But we shall see if that happens. But you know, 80% of the population. I come back to the EU. 80% of the population wants Georgia to join the EU, and Georgian Dream is suddenly saying, well, even though we've started on the road to accession, we're going to pause till 2028. Why?
Actually, I think it's because of Russia, because they are afraid of Russia. They don't want to be in a conflict with Russia, and I get where they coming from.
Well, they're already in a conflict.
Listen,
they're occupied by, Russia.
Actually, I'm not really sure they're occupied. This is a very complicated question. Why do we accept for the independence of Kosovo, and we do not accept the independence of some small
South
part
Ossetia.
of South Ossetia? So it's a little more complicated than we see, but we see it from the Western point of view. And what I'm trying to do all the time, and I know it's pissing you off, but I'm trying.
Not at all.
I'm trying to show that the Western point of view isn't the only point of view in the world.
Of course it's not, but when I got back from Georgia recently, and the amount of Ukrainian flags, the amount of European flags put everywhere on the streets, not just in Tbilisi, which is obviously the capital, so you can expect people to be more Western-minded, but in other parts of the country as well. So it tells us something about the priorities of Georgian people.
And the mood.
Okay, I live in Żoliborz, and in Żoliborz you have the rainbow pro-gay community flag in every building, I would say. But it doesn't mean that people in Poland are pro-gay. It's people who are invested in something.
Okay, so
are showing flags and going to the protests and so on.
Right.
But people who are voting
might behave differently. In the last couple of minutes we have left, quickly, Karolina, I'd like to ask you, is this the right time for the US to suspend its strategic partnership with Georgia? They've cited governance issues, various anti-democratic actions. Surely Georgian people who, want more US support, don't they, not less?
Yes, and I'm not sure if such pressure will work on Georgian Dream, which doesn't really care about, the suspension of talks with the EU. EU did it first a few months ago after Georgian Dream proposed foreign agents law. So they just go their own way, and in the past couple of months, we saw how closer they get to Russia and how much they don't care about any pressure from the West. So I'm not sure if it's going to work, but it's definitely going to impact regular Georgian citizens who are, as you mentioned, strongly pro-European and definitely, to a large extent, anti-Russian.
Right. Agnieszka, a number of civil servants have also complained about the actions of the government, Georgian Dream, and various Georgian ambassadors from European countries are resigning in protest of this. Again, this is not just, supporters of the EU. It's people in the infrastructure, in the civil structures.
Okay. It's going to happen always. That there are some, especially diplomats has some their own mind. But listen, you talk about U.S. and Georgia. Well, U.S. did install its own agent, Mr. Saakashvili, who was a criminal, who spent $250,000 for his and his family's plastic operation from budget of Georgia. And I don't think I think there are many parts of Georgia who do not love USA. And we have to understand this, and we have to respect the Georgian decision. And especially Saakashvili, which was he was really very bad person, and he is still he's alive.
Zina Ivanishvili, probably even worse.
Yes, that's the thing. They have to choose. And we don't have a standing to say them who they have to choose.
No, absolutely not. I certainly agree. I'm just talking about the response to the situation from the US. And okay, we understand that if Russia wants to influence them and we want peace and so on, that's fair enough. But it's not a one-sided game.
I would say Pax Americana is over. The world which is run by USA is over, and we have to accept this.
Okay, well, we shall see what the Trump effect is on that. Ladies, thank you very, very much indeed for coming along on this Sunday morning and sharing your analysis with our audience. Most useful. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that's all from us in this episode of Press Corner. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.